Now. Hello, this is Kate from Align Natural Health, and today I'm going to talk to you about sugar. And I was actually going to talk about this last Tuesday, and then I realized it was Valentine's Day, and that seemed kind of cruel. So I decided to talk about it today. But sugar is a really important topic because it has such a huge impact on our health overall, on our quality of life, on our energy, on our sleep, on our stress, on our immune function, on so many different things. So it's an important one to talk about. But it's also a sensitive topic for a lot of people because sugar has highly addictive properties to it. If you think about it, sugar is, and caffeine as well, are both, they're technically like drugs because of the addictive properties that come along with them, but they're the only ones that are socially acceptable. You wouldn't, go around with friends and talk about if you had an addiction to any other substance, but sugar and caffeine are ones that are just okay. It's okay to talk about these things. And that's where it can be problematic. And the average American is actually consuming around 7 teaspoons of sugar every day. And that translates to 57 pounds of sugar per year, which is pretty crazy to think about. And it's not that you're putting 17 teaspoons of sugar in your coffee or in your tea. It's just that sugar is in pretty much anything. If you're buying processed foods, packaged foods, fast foods, a lot of these are going to contain sugar in them. And a lot of the times, the sugars can be kind of masked, kind of hidden, because there's a lot of different names that we may not associate with sugar. There's actually over 50 of them, which is pretty crazy. I'll share a few of them with you. So, corn sweetener is actually a sugar. Ethyl maltol is a sugar. Corn syrup is a sugar. High fructose corn syrup is is one of, in my opinion, one of like the worst things that we can possibly be consuming because of the impact it's going to have on our bodies. When it comes to things like fatty liver, a lot of the times we associate these issues with alcohol, with people who are drinking a lot. But kids are starting to show up and present with fatty liver symptoms as well and with issues there because of the high fructose corn syrup that they're consuming. This can be in sports drinks. This can be in sodas. This can be in, we had a family member bring a package of licorice, like the big long Twizzlers licorice, to a family event a few months ago. And I looked at the package just out of curiosity, and high fructose corn syrup is the first ingredient on there. So a lot of the things that kids are consuming, while they don't have fat in them, they still do have a lot of sugar in them, which is going to have an impact on the body. And I don't want to like nerd out too much on that one, but fructose in the body, the liver is not able to break it down completely. And so some of it remains in the liver. And over time, that builds up and accumulates. And that's what can lead to fatty liver for people. So we think it's alcohol, but it's actually fructose for a lot of people. And that's where high fructose corn syrup is a really big problem. At least if you're eating fruit, there's fiber and there's some healthy fats in there typically, and maybe even a little bit of protein, which is going to help the body deal with the sugar better. But when it's concentrated in high fructose corn syrup, there's nothing to slow down the spike in blood sugar or to help the body manage it. So sorry, I got distracted. So I said corn sweetener, ethyl maltol, corn syrup, dextrose, fructose, fruit juice concentrates, glucose, lactose, maltose, malt syrup. The list goes on forever, but it's just a good awareness to realize that just because you're not putting a teaspoon of sugar in your tea or in your coffee and seeing that like the white sugar go into what you're eating, it doesn't mean that the sugar is not there as well. And this can have a really big implication on our health. So I mentioned fatty liver disease and the connection with fructose there, but there's other things that sugar can be problematic towards as well. So this is not an uncommon thing to hear, but sugar can be linked to weight gain. Having sugar in our system is going to increase blood sugar. And when blood sugar goes up and it's not immediately used by the body, insulin, which is our fat storage hormone, is also going to go up because blood sugar can't remain high for long periods of time. We wouldn't be healthy. We deal with other health issues if that were the case. But if blood sugar is going up, insulin's coming in like and saying, whoa, 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 we need to bring this back down. And when it does to bring it back down is it tucks it in our fat cells for storage and to protect you ultimately. But this is why, excess sugar consumption can lead to weight gain. It can increase your risk of heart disease. It can be linked to acne for some people. It's going to have an impact on our hormones overall because it does drive up insulin. Cortisol is impacted, and then other hormones play in as well. But then the link to acne is one that's problematic for people, especially if you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s. You don't want to be dealing with acne. It's like puberty's done. Why am I dealing with this now? And there's other reasons that you could be dealing with that, but sugar can be a part of it as well. And yes, Amanda said sugar causes inflammation. Sugar causes inflammation in our blood vessels as well, which is really concerning. And that's why sugar can be linked to increase your risk of heart disease because sugar goes into our bloodstream and it causes inflammation in our arteries, in our veins. And when there's inflammation in the arteries and the veins, that's where the body sends other things to come in to try and repair it. And that can be things like cholesterol. And cholesterol comes in to try and fix the damage from the inflammation that the sugars caused. Cholesterol builds up, and then we deal with heart problems and with, vascular problems. And a lot of the times cholesterol is blamed for that. But what if it was actually the sugar that caused the problem in the first place? Sugar is also increases your risk of type 2 diabetes. A lot more people are dealing with diabetes today than they were 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. And a lot of that does have to do with the increased processed food consumption that we're having and the increased amount of sugar that we're eating. Because a lot of the processed foods, they're hiding sugar in there. It's not easy to detect, but it's in there. Sugar can also be linked to increased risk of depression, which is an interesting one for a lot of people. But we're going to talk a little bit more about what sugar does in the brain, and that may make a little bit more sense there as well. Sugar may also accelerate your skin's aging process. So if you're dealing with more wrinkles and more lines around your eyes, around your mouth, if you're feeling like you're aging faster than you should be, and a lot of the times when this happens, the solution is like, oh, I just need to go get Botox, or I need to go get something to reverse this problem that's happening. What we need to be asking is why? Why am I dealing with the things that I'm dealing with? And that's what we ask at Align Natural Health. We test every one of our clients to figure out, why are you dealing with these things? So there's another good one. Amanda just said sugar feeds parasites, which can cause symptoms to be worse. It's totally true. Sugar is going to feed the bad bacteria in your gut, which are going to lead to other gut imbalances and problems and reduced immune function as well, and also parasites. And parasites cause all kinds of problem in our bodies. They can lead to joint pain. They can cause cognitive challenges. They can cause skin issues. They can cause so many different things. And when we're eating lots of sugar, ultimately, we're feeding all of the bugs in our body too. And we're not feeding the good bugs, because the good bugs eat healthier things. They eat fibrous vegetables and stuff. If you're eating sugar and you're feeding your bug population and you're boosting it up, that could be part of the reason you're having more problems too. Sugar increase or high consumption of sugar can also increase cellular aging. And as I already talked about, sugar can lead to fatty liver, which is something that we don't want to be dealing with, especially at a young age. Seeing it in children is really shocking because it was long thought that fatty liver was a result of alcohol. But why are we seeing it in kids? So it's not a good sign, but it's something that we can have awareness around and we can work to not deal with anymore, right? It can be really overwhelming how many forms of sugar there are. It really can. But from a business perspective, if you think about it, you've made this product and you've put some sugar in it, and sugar is addictive. So if I put sugar in this and people are addicted to it, they're going to want more. And if people want more, then they're going to buy more of my product. So win. Amazing, right? from the business person's perspective, but what about the people that are eating this product and it's affecting their health? So, why? Why is sugar so addictive? There's research that tells us that excess sugar could be as addictive as some street drugs and have similar effects on the brain. Eating sugar releases dopamine and opioids in our body. And dopamine is the body's neurotransmitter hormone that is responsible for wanting more. For a long time, I thought that dopamine was the pleasure hormone. And like once you got a hit of dopamine, it was that like feel good sensation, but it doesn't last. It's not the feel good and like, okay, I'm good, I'm fine, and I can just go on my day. It's the hormone that makes you want more. So yes, you feel good when you first have it, but then it's like, how can I get more? Where can I get my next, feel good hit from eating more sugar? And that's what leads to people, feeling like they need to eat more of it or eat it more frequently because it does feel good when you eat it. But then that feeling passes and that doesn't feel good. So as you repeat the behavior more and more, the brain adjusts to release less dopamine each time you do it as well. And I don't know if you've experienced that in the past. I know that I have. I've definitely had times where I've eaten more sugar. And the first time you have a little bit and you're like, oh, that was so good and it's fine. And the next time you have it, you have a little bit and you're like, oh, I didn't get the same rush. I didn't get the same hit from that. So, oh, I'll have to eat a bit more. And then I feel good. And then the next time it's like, "Ugh, it didn't work. Okay, so I need to eat a bit more." And it can lead to people consuming more than they're intending to because the body is tricking them essentially to feel like they need to keep eating it. So because it's linked to the chronic health concerns and the problems to your health or to your body, this is why we want to take some effort into trying to get rid of sugar. And I know for a lot of people, this is really challenging because of the addictive properties that come along with this. It can be really hard to do. So, this is where it's really good to take a look at the foods that you're eating, especially if you're buying processed or packaged foods, and look for the sugar names, the sugar hidden sugars that are in there, I guess. And a lot of the times, the foods will have on the nutritional information, it'll say how many grams of sugar or milligrams of sugar are in the product. But sometimes they're sneaky, especially, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in Canada, they'll have a line that has sugar alcohols. And the problem that I've seen personally with sugar alcohols is that there's this assumption that sugar alcohols are okay and that if you eat those, it's okay. It's like a good replacement, and you don't have to deal with the same spike in blood sugar that you had if you were eating sugar or the same spike in insulin. But for a lot of people, that's not the case. I had some Smart Sweets a couple of weeks ago now, I think, and they're don't have sugar in them. It's sugar alcohol. There's stevia in the ones that I had. And I'm like a nerd like that, so I test my blood sugar because I wanna see, did this have an impact on me? And I'm generally around a 4 for, like, a fasted blood sugar or for, like, a middle of the day blood sugar. And so I had some Smart Sweets, and then half an hour later, I tested my blood sugar, and I was a 7.9, which is way higher than I've ever seen, and that was from eating something that was sweetened with stevia. Was it from the stevia? Was that the reason that my blood sugar increased? Potentially not. There's lots of other things in there as well that can mess with our blood sugar. But it's just that's the common question that comes up when you start to talk to people about like, okay, so, how can we start to work to reduce sugar in your daily consumption or in your life? And the first question is like, well, what can I replace it with? And ultimately, like, yes, stevia is a better option. And there are like monk fruit can be one that's helpful as well. But you're still looking for that same reward from your food that you would get from sugar. Whereas ultimately, like food is meant to be fuel for our bodies. It's not meant to be entertainment, as says Dr. Paul Saladino. That's where I got that from. I thought it was really good. But it comes from like way back in our as young children. What do you do when, a baby is crying? A lot of the times you may change them, but one of the things that we typically go to is you'll try feeding them. They can't tell us what's wrong with them. They can't tell us what's going on, but they get fed. And so from a very young age, we're taught that food is comfort. We're taught that, food is given to us when we're crying. We're taught that food is a celebration at birthdays. We have cupcakes, we have all kinds of treats. Then there's Christmas, and there's sugar at Christmas, and then there's Halloween, and there's sugar at Halloween, and then there's Valentine's Day. Hence, I didn't do this last Tuesday, and there's sugar at Valentine's Day. And so, from a like a thought, my mind is blanking right now. Just like from the way that we're conditioned, it's the belief that like food is reward, and so sugar is a really big part of that. And yes, it's addictive, but every time we have emotional stuff going on, sugar is the thing that we turn to a lot of the times. So, how can you start to reduce sugar? Again, take a look at the foods that you're eating. As Amanda said, it's in everything. If you can eat whole foods as much as possible, absolutely. Eating whole foods is a really good place to get started. So, eating fruits, vegetables. Fruits, yes, they have sugar in them, but nature is smart. Nature has designed these products, they're not products. Nature has designed these edible gifts that are wrapped up with the things that your body needs. So there's going to be enzymes in there to help you break the food down. There's going to be fiber in there, which is going to slow down the rate of increase in blood sugar after you consume them. And there's going to be other like vitamins and potentially minerals in there as well that's going to be helpful for overall your body's health. And when we eat, processed foods, the body has less work to do. So it's burning less calories to consume these things. And it's also going to cause a much faster increase in blood sugar. So whole foods, fruits, vegetables, although it should be vegetables then fruits. Fruits are like not the main focus. Like meats, so fish, steak, chicken, um, pork, like healthy meats are going to be really good here. And then healthy fats as well. So we want to make sure that we're getting, some good healthy fats because healthy fats, I'm an 80s baby. So I definitely grew up in the time where fat was bad. Fat was going to make you fat, but it's totally not the case. It's been debunked over and over and over again. And a lot of people still have a hard time letting go of that. And I get that. But fat is really beneficial for you. We need fat for every cell in our body to repair and rebuild our our cells and our system. We're going to need more fats. We need fats to build hormones. We need fats for so many different things. Fats are also going to be really helpful when it comes to keeping blood sugar stable. So we want to make sure that every meal we do have some protein, which is the most satiating nutrient that we consume, macronutrient that we consume. We want to make sure that we have some healthy fats. And then when it comes to carbohydrates, we want to make sure that they're not really highly processed and they're not really high in sugar because ultimately, eating real whole foods is what's going to be really beneficial when it comes to health. And from a food perspective, what we see working with clients is that when it comes to foods that are going to not help you move forward on your health journey, there's three kind of main things that we see. I think there's three, maybe four main things that we see, and sugar is one of them. Another one is seed oils. Another one is gluten for some people, and another one is dairy. And so sugar is one of the main things that we will focus on if we're working with someone and they're not progressing as well as they could be in their program is taking a look at their food and seeing, okay, so what are you eating? We're not the food police, but at the same time, your goal is to get healthier. That's why you're working with us. So we are going to take a look at your food and see what's going on there and how we can help you move forward even more. So from that perspective, I mean, take a look at the things that you're eating. A lot of the times we find that 95% of what we do in our day, every single day, is unconscious. Our subconscious, unconscious, I call it unconscious, but our subconscious or unconscious mind controls 95% of the things that we do in our day. And so if you find that at night you're a snacker, which I know is a really common one for people, is it actually something you're consciously doing? Probably not. Probably not. A lot of the times, people will say that they sat down on the couch and then all of a sudden the bag of whatever was in front of them was gone. And it's just unconsciously eating these things at night. And so we want to make sure that we're eating enough throughout the day so that you're not hungry at night. Because if you're hungry at night, that's going to cause even more problems. It's good to stay away from sugar in the evening as much as possible because that will impact your sleep as well. So if you're going to snack on something in the evening, some veggies is a really good option. You probably will find that you're really not that hungry. You don't really want, a bowl of celery sticks at night, even though you thought you were hungry and you were going to grab the snack. Um, and making sure that there's other healthy options when you do go for snacking is really beneficial as well. And then focusing on real whole foods. And yes, it's hard at first. And yes, it's easy to get back into that habit. But ultimately, cutting out sugar, I mean, doing it a little bit at a time, that's another part. Don't do this cold turkey. Cutting out sugar cold turkey is not a good idea. You will not feel well, most likely. So do this a little bit at a time if you're looking to reduce the amount of sugar that you're consuming. And then it's just like one step at a time and moving towards eating healthier. You'll feel better. You won't crave things as much. You will probably find that, especially if you were someone that used to eat a lot of sugar in the past, your taste buds will find sugar almost offensive if it's not used to it. I've had that in the past too, where, I didn't eat sugar for quite a while because I made some pretty major changes to my diet when I was working to get rid of the symptoms I had with MS, and sugar was part of what I cut out when I was doing that. And I used to like certain treats. And then after I cut the sugar out of my diet, a year later, I would have a few of the treats and I was like, "Oh my god, that's awful. It's so sweet." Your taste buds change when you start to remove it as well. And you'll start to find the real whole foods taste amazing. They taste so much better when you're not looking for the processed, the packaged foods that you're used to and the sugary foods that you're used to. So, hopefully, you found this helpful. Hopefully, you got some information from this. If you are looking to do some baking or some things around the house, and you do want to, add a bit of sweetness to it, again, the stevia is a good option. Monk fruit is also an okay option here as well. They still can be addictive, so we don't want to be eating them all the time, but it's still going to be a better option than putting some brown sugar or white sugar or high fructose corn syrup or even agave into there. The natural stuff, so the stevia or the monk fruit, are going to be better options here. So hopefully you got some value from this. If you're interested, we have a new client special right now. If you're looking for help with working towards improving your health, it's 135 to work with us. It's your first two sessions are included. It's only for a couple more days, actually, because February is almost over. But your first two sessions are included. Your first round of head to toe testing, we do quantum nutrition testing, which is a means of figuring out what's going on in your body. Why are you having the symptoms that you're having? That's the first question that I always want to ask and find out. Because I know in my past, in my experience, that was something that was never asked, and I found it really frustrating. So that's like the main thing that we want to find out right from the start. Why are you having the symptoms that you're having? And then from there, we can figure out what your body needs to get back into balance. So if you're interested in that, I will drop the link in the comments. And you can check it out. If you're on Instagram, grab the link in my bio and you can learn more about quantum nutrition testing, or send me a message anytime. I'd be more than happy to chat with you if you have more questions. And aside from that, if you know anyone who could use this live or could use some of this information, please don't hesitate to share with them. And otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day.